story, keeping your budget up, but your overhead low. This is a big topic, right? Now, this is especially for the indie filmmaker, but this goes through this is a business. This is a business teaching right here, okay? So when you have your story is your point, your story is your reason, your story is your method. You're not necessarily wanting to make, well, when you're an indie filmmaker, you do not want to make a Fast and Furious. You want to make something better than that. You want to make, The Witch. You want to make Jaws. Well, not Jaws. Jaws is a studio film. You want to make, what's a good one? Like a Silence of the Lambs. These are more expensive, yes, I know. But you're wanting to make something that has a powerful story that's going to stretch and going to expose you as a filmmaker and a storyteller. Okay? Now, this is going to be on all different aspects. This is cinematographers are going to want to be a part of projects that are like that they can embellish and create a sense and an image that speaks to an audience, that speaks especially to an industry professional, that's when they're sitting in the theater, they watch this movie and they go, wow, I love the story of that, and the cinematography matched it so well. You have to have a good story. So your story is vastly important. Your story needs to be very, very strong, especially on the indie level. Especially the less that you have going for your story, right? Going for your production, let's say. What does that mean? Going for your production, going for your story. Well, your story can be absolutely awesome, but if you don't have star talent, if you don't have a good, production budget, if you don't have an outstanding marketing budget, your movie can be top level, amazing, awesome story, but it has nothing for it, so it's not going to get seen. Nobody cares. Well, how do you combat that if you can't get a hold of anybody? Your story has to be insanely amazing. Your story has to captivate no matter who is in front or is acting in that scene. No matter what, where somebody watches your trailer and goes, I have to see that movie. They don't care about necessarily what the movie or what the actor is or what, who the star is. General audiences you might not capture, but they are looking at it going, that sounds like such a cool idea. The more indie that you go, the less that you have as far as going towards production and going towards a selling factor, the more that you have to have a better story. So story is very important regardless, but it can be something that you might not have to have the next best thing, the most amazing story in the world that's going to capture somebody just off looking, at the generic idea. If you have star talent, in your film, if you have, $400,000 in the bank directly for this. And that's not going to be your production budget. That's going to be wrapped into your marketing budget. Your marketing budget is going to put you on billboards. So that means it's going to be seen. So the story doesn't have to be absolutely stellar, completely, oh my God, the Oscars are calling, But if you're on the indie and you don't have that, then yes, you're going to have to make it work. So with that, with your indie film, let's say you have a really, really good story. You have something that you really believe in. It's not the next, best thing, but it is amazing and is something that you really, really believe in, and everybody that you talk to believes in it. So this is keeping your budget up and your overhead low, right? Which means if you were to get an investor and the investor says, I'm going to give you between $200,000 and $800,000, right? Most filmmakers are going to go, well, $800,000, absolutely. That means I can do more with it, right? No, that means that you now have to get $800,000 back. If you think that your movie is going to sell and get you at least $800,000 back, then by all means go for it. But if you do have that little doubt of, oh God, if it doesn't sell that great, or if the audiences don't, or if something happens, or I don't know, maybe that $800,000 might be that's a lot to try to get back. That's a lot to try to earn even. So what do you want to do? You want to do your film for the lowest possible budget to get the highest possible return. You want to profit on this film, which means if you can do your film for $200,000, but you make $250,000 on top of it, that means you got your investor's money back and you made a profit of $50,000. It's not a great profit margin. You didn't even make half back, but you were able to get the investors their money back, which first off, that's the most important thing you can do. That is what you're going for, okay? So with that being said, You want to make your film for that lowest amount that you can still pull off your movie and pull it off correctly and pull it off right. But that could mean you need to get a little bit creative. So what does that mean? Well, if you've built up your connections, right, and your pitch is strong, just like we talked about the last episode, if your pitch is really strong, you'll be able to gather a good group of people, you can possibly convince them to work with you on budget, where instead of paying them what they are definitely worth, and you definitely want to pay them what they're worth, maybe they were willing to take a little bit less of a paycheck to put that more into the production budget to help you out there, so that you can bring that big number down and keep your overhead low so that you can be able to make that money back. And if you can make that money back, you can use that to work into your next film with your next set of investors, who they are definitely going to feel a lot more confident investing in you if you've gotten the money back to the other investors. And that could be something you could pitch as well. But the whole point is, on the indie level, you need to get the investors their money back, and you need to make a profit. If you do not have star talent, that is a very hard thing to make a profit on. Most general audiences only go to these films when they see somebody they like. Now, this kind of depends on genre, yes, but I will tell you the truth. And you can vouch this for yourself. You see a cool movie that's got, it just looks cool, versus the one where Vin Diesel is in it, you're probably going to watch the one with Vin Diesel in it, right? Especially if the two movies kind of relate, which goes more into a horror genre, which a lot of people say, oh, we'll make the horror because the horror community is going to go after you. The horror community is going to support you no matter what if you make a good horror film. Well, if your horror film looks a little bit like their horror film, which sometimes they do, right? Because they're both slashers, but their horror film has Vin Diesel, or their horror film just has anybody in it, they might go see that movie instead. So that's something that it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's something you have to consider. Like I said, the less that you have going for your production, the harder it's going to be. So keep that in mind. Now, with that being said, what is it that you're looking for exactly? How does this budgeting even work? Because some people, especially when you're watching this, you're watching me talk, you're sitting here going, okay, well, how is this? What is the budgets? What are the budgets? What is it going to work, right? Well, first off, you have your marketing budget, okay? Your marketing budget is usually going to be about 10 to 20%, probably even 30% of your actual budget. With your marketing budget, you're going to be looking at how do you get the word out. That is the biggest part. So that already is spoken for and needs to be spoken for. You should be spending a good amount of money, if not a lot amount of money, on your marketing budget. The more that you can spend on your marketing budget, the farther outreach is going to get, the more people are going to get eyes on your project, the more people that are possibly going to see your project. Especially when it comes to a theatrical release, this goes into the festivals, this goes into, putting it out to the theaters for a theatrical release, especially when you don't have a distribution company doing it for you, then you have your production budget. With your production budget, this is what you're going to use for the actual making of the film. Okay, so this is going to be the wardrobe, this is going to be the set design, this is going to be the crafty, this is going to be all of those things. So you need to be very aware of how much it is going to cost actually. This means doing research. This means cutting corners in ways that can be creative, that will hopefully give your film what it needs, but for very cheap. Like I said, you don't need to build up, you don't need to make a set and make it two-sided if you're only going to see one side. That sounds like a waste of money. Oh, well, you can flip it. No, who cares? Just make it the cheapest way that you can make it, but the most that it looks and portrays what you're looking for it to do. This is where I would cut corners as far as financially. I would get a lot more creative. One of the best stories that's told about getting creative like this is Star Wars. They didn't have the technology to do what they did. So they were creative with their methods of how are we going to make this work? How are we going to show this, these worlds, and how are we going to pull this off? This is where you get really creative. Most people like to think that in the filmmaking process and making movies that you get creative when you're coming up with it. No. The real creativity is, how do I pull off this scene with one less actor, two lights that just blew up, so now I only have a lampshade and it's dark out, and my camera's looking out. How do I make this film work? How do I get this scene to come through? That is where it gets really creative. That is where you show if you're a filmmaker or a film masturbator. Oh, we haven't touched that yet. Just wait. Another episode will come to explain exactly what the difference is between a filmmaker and a film masturbator. Trust and believe, there's a big difference. So, paying out. Whoa, what is that? Well, this is another portion of your budget, right? Because like I said, that was your marketing budget and that was your production budget. What is paying out? Paying out is your actors, your actresses, your managers, your UPMs, your everything, right? This is the people that you now have to give money so that they will do this kind of stuff. This is where you do not cut corners with these people. You do what you say you're going to do. Don't say it unless you're going to do it. So be very aware of that. But this is where you will negotiate prices, and this is where you can bring in your $200,000 budget and you say, I can only afford to pay out this much money to get these people. So this is where your pitch has to be strong, because you might not be able to afford this amazing cinematographer. But if your pitch is strong, if your story is good, and if you believe in it, you get these other people to believe in it, you might be able to get somebody that is way out of your league to come and be a part of your project, which could open so many doors for either you or the people that you work with. The fact of it is, in this industry, the more doors, the more of us that get up there, the easier it's going to be for you to follow up with them. So every success is a success. We are not competing with each other. We are competing with Hollywood. None of us are in Hollywood yet. Or if we are, we're just kind of in, we're kind of out. We're trying to get up higher. Be like A24. Push for the differences. Push for the other stories. Push to create something new. Push to be your own thing so that your competitor is the big warmongers of the industry. Do not shit on the little guy when you're also the little guy, because guess what? Now you're both sitting next to shit. That really sucks. So, how to get someone to believe and then sell it with you. Okay? Now this comes in with your whole marketing strategy. Now, like I said, I've talked a lot about your story and what the importance of it is, and then keeping your budgets in mind and how you're going to spend them, what you're going to do with them. But how do you get the investor to believe in you? Now, most investors, I'm not going to tell you that I know exactly where to go and grab your investor. Your next investor is going to be here. It's not what this is about. You're going to have to find your own investor. A lot of people do not like the educational videos that people like me give because they're just looking for that quick answer. Well, the truth is, there is no quick answer. Anything that comes quickly, right, usually goes away faster. That's the fact. So if you want to have a long, successful career, be aware you're going to have a long and unsuccessful journey to get there, right? But then it will pay out in the end. So what you need to do is you need to be reaching out and looking for your own investors. You need to be open and open-minded to different people. You need to be working on other projects and working and collaborating to be able to get your name into the mix, because investors are always kind of walking in and out of these things. And a lot of these investors have nothing to do with the film industry. Now, we will talk about investors, how to work with them, and what you should and should not do with them, especially when you give an investor maybe a little bit too much power and what that can do to your film. Yeah, you could get fired. Oh, that'll feel bad, but how can they do that? Well, I'll tell you one of these days. But what you're going to do is, when you are sitting here, you are trying to get this person to believe, all right? They're believing in you, and then you're trying to get them to sell it with you, okay? So what that is this can include sponsorships, this can include influencers, this can include investors, all right? This can include and producers, whatever, any of the people that are working on the project try to make money and get some revenue from it. What these people are doing, and what you need to do with them, is you need to pitch and get them to believe in the project, but you need to get them to believe it so much that they are willing to sell it with you, right? So that means it needs to be in their interest. So only target people that are interested in what you're doing. Do not target a holiday rom-com to a slasher's extravaganza lover who says they want to put some money to you, but it's not really their ballgame, it's not really their main thing, and they're just kind of thinking, well, if I make one movie, then I can make another. A lot of these people, like I said, are not part of the industry. They are contractors, who have a lot of money and are thinking, well, I can make quick cash and I can get rich quick by doing this. They don't know what they're doing. So this means you need to know what you're doing. This is where the pitch is so important. This is why that first episode was so important for you to watch. So if you have not watched that episode, turn this off, go watch that episode, and then come back. But I'm hoping that you did. But what these people are is, you have to know your story and why. Why are you selling it to this market? Why are you putting it to this niche? Why are you making this film, and why is it going to be successful? And where is it going to go? You need to know all of these things. And then you need to teach them and work them into, even if they are in the industry, You need to work them into how they are going to help do that. Now, if you have an influencer, let's say that you're doing a sports documentary film, okay? And this sports film has 4 different people attached to it, okay? You have the first person, which is a producer who does a lot of documentaries and actually has a connection with, let's say, Apple Plus, okay? So you already know kind of where you're going to put the film. The second person is going to be somebody who owns a sports team, okay? It might be the person that you were shooting some of your sports documentary stuff about, and they're the investor. So they're invested in this thing. They're putting money towards it because it's going to help their team and show off their team, and it's going to show more of what they believe in anyways as well. Then you have a company who, let's say they build braces for athletes, right? So now you have a company who you can get sponsored to either give you equipment to put into the film, into the documentary, or you can get them to give you money to put that stuff into the documentary and talk about it, as well as using them to promote your film on their channels, their sites, their social media, their outlets, because their product is being used for this purpose in this documentary. And then your fourth person is your athlete. They're your influencer, right? So this is somebody who is a known athlete, known in this industry, known in what they're doing, and you are exposing them or exposing their industry and a spot that they believe in, that they deal with every single day, and now you can use them to reach out to their audiences to better sell your movie. Because when it goes to Apple Plus, let's say that you have that lucky, you're that lucky and that you can put it off to Apple Plus, all these different people are hopefully going to help you. And this is what you're targeting them to do. You're teaching them how to help you to get the eyes to go to Apple Plus so that their message can get seen, their audience can see them doing whatever, and that the other people can get their products sold, right? So this is a business move, right? This is keeping your budget low or your budget high, but your overhead low. So you're giving yourself the best chance at gaining more revenue. You've made the movie, you've made the project for as minimal as you can. Now, you've figured out a method and a way, right? Because you've borrowed and stole to keep your budget down. You borrowed and stole to get what you have, right? You've gotten the location, you've gotten the people, you've gotten the products, you've gotten everything that you can. You've gotten it for dirt cheap, if not free sometimes. Especially if you believe in it. You can get people to do, if you believe in it, you can get people to do a lot more things than you actually expect. And you get it for free. More on that in some other time. But you've gotten all this stuff together, right? Now, all these people are going to work with you, and that is what you've been using to pitch. So, with all these people, try to get them in the early stages before you do anything. Get them to understand, which means you need to know your market, you need to know your niches, you need to have this planned ahead. You need to have 3 different sports teams that you can do this with, 4 different influencers that you can reach out to, 5 different companies, so on and so forth. But you are going to make this plan ahead of time so that when you sit them down, you'll be able to find possibly more avenues and more doors that you didn't even know were there. Now, you're going to get this team of these people that have nothing to do with your team and your crew and your people that you have from your other projects or from gaining interest to come and help you make this project. You have now legitimized and spread this missile target, this missile that's going to hit in the market and hopefully gain you revenue and help your career boost up. So that is how you get them to sell. Get them interested, get them invested, and inspire them to be able to do something. But most importantly, tell them what to do. Tell them how to help you and do it before you do it. So that once you get in there, after you've signed your contracts, after you've made the product, they already know what to do with the product. They've been preparing for it. They're excited for it. Now, oh my God, it's done. Oh my God, it looks so cool. Okay, there you go. And now you can make a revenue with it. Now you have used them to sell it with you. No one sells it for you unless it's for them. Now, what does that mean? There is such a thing, especially in this industry, where too good to be true is very real. If somebody comes out of nowhere and they believe in your project, they believe in what you're doing, they have all these things and they're all these connections and they're going to give you all this money, and guess what? You have to do so minimal to earn it. Or they just came out of nowhere, or whatever the situation is. If it feels too good to be true and you didn't have to work super hard for it, you didn't have to go out and tactically do this. It might not be hard work, but it could be like with the situation that we just had before. We did that. That was our design, that was our method, that was how we approached the situation, which is how we were able to pull off what we pulled off. Whereas this guy just showed up out of nowhere, kind of like the devil, right? If that situation happens, you need to understand something. First thing is, if they think they can sell it, or if they're like, this movie sells on its own, this is what it is, they have an in. They have something that they're going for. There's something that's for them that you probably don't know about. Another thing is, somebody comes up to you and says that they have a lot of money. You can verify that in a lot of different ways. First off, somebody comes up to you and says that they have a lot of money, right? That they're looking to invest in your movie, and that they invest in movies all the time. $7 million movies, this $1 million, right? When you start hearing those, you already kind of have a red flag going up. But one of the easiest ways to tell, their teeth. Rich people got nice teeth. This guy doesn't have nice teeth. That could be something pretty unique. So, look at their teeth. Pay attention to their smell. Look at their car. Rich people usually don't have cars that are completely messy. And if you see a lot of stains going around in this car, walk the person to their vehicle and look at their vehicle. It could look really good from the outside, but check on the inside. Because a lot of people, especially nowadays, have gotten these really, really nice cars. But then if they open their car door and all these Starbucks coffee mugs and cigarettes pop out and fall out to the ground, that could be something you need to consider, especially if they're talking such a big game. Another thing is, do your research on the people. What did we do in our previous section? We researched these people. We targeted these people. We knew what we were getting into before we got into them. And we specifically looked for them. Joe Schmo just popped out of nowhere. He better be able to have what he says he has. If you look up the different companies, you look up what they do. They say, we have, done $5 million movies and all this. And they put up these different things. You better be able to find their name. You better be able to find different people about them. It better be pretty easy to spot that they've done this. If it is very hard to find them, or if they are just not popping up, what I used to do is, when I would talk to a lot of producers and I would talk to these other people to try to get them on projects, or whenever I was going onto a project that I believed in, which meant chances are I was going for free, because it's usually how it worked out, is I believed in the project so much that I want to get on there that I decided out of kindness of my own heart that I would help them out for free or for less or for whatever, but that meant that I did my research on them. I would literally, the first thing I did is I would say, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. People love talking about themselves, especially people in this industry. So it's a nifty trick and a nifty way to learn about them. Well, as you're doing that, keep your keyboard taps a little light, make them quiet, and research as they talk about it. Oh yeah, it was on, these different movies. Oh, what movies were you a part of? Oh, I was a part of Fast and Furious 9 or Creed 2. Oh, okay, all right. Look it up, right? I did music with so-and-so. Look it up. Look up their name with so-and-so, right? And look it up right there. Verify it right there. Always know who you're going into business with. You should always understand where they've been at, what they produce. This doesn't need to be somebody that's amazing or top level, but if they're saying they've done something, you better be able to verify that they've been able to do it. So you look at these different locations. Sometimes they might say, I'm award winning and this and that, and then you go on the IMDb and you don't see, that it says that. Well, look up on some other things, or look up the film itself, because sometimes it doesn't post up or doesn't link or whatever happened. It's not to say that they're necessarily lying. It's to say that, it's technology. There's all kinds of different things. So you look up them on Coverfly, and all of a sudden you see, 5 accolades. Yeah, it's there. It's just, now it's in this, and I got to look at this, I got to look at that. If you're not willing, and if it's too much of a hassle for you to look up somebody else you're looking at working with, or you're looking at creating a project with and spending a bunch of money with, you probably should not be in this industry. If I were you, I'd get out of it. This is your livelihood, but this is not just your livelihood. Don't be a selfish prick. This is somebody else's livelihood. This is a possible actor who is going to take away from their mealtime, right? And when I say take away from their mealtime, I mean they're not going to eat because they spent the money on their gas to get to your film. If you do not take it serious, and you do not take your movie serious, and you do not take their time serious, and your time serious, you're wasting everybody's time. And you're hurting the industry. There are way too many people, that's a rant for another time, but there are way too many people that do this sort of thing, that just go, whatever, be the next one, and they don't even think about the people that are putting in what they don't even know to make it happen. So, make your project worth something. That is the whole entire process of this. Make your project worth something and meet that requirement. You can do it. but you have to think outside the box. So, story is the most important. And the story is not just about the story of the film. It could be the story about the filmmaking process of making that film. So make sure the story is important. Make sure that everybody that's a part of this is a part of this for a reason. It's going to go somewhere. It's going to do something. And it's something that you will be proud of. You want the story of your film to be something you're proud of as well, right? Make sure that the making of it is just as important. And then keep your budget high as you can make it. Then still, will do something. And keep your overhead low. Okay? Make sure you get your money back. Make sure that you can make a profit.